Hello, everybody. It is your professor, Rocco, your boy, coming at you again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this 101 class, we're going to be talking about battalions. But first, I want to thank y'all for tuning in, my lovely students from Rocco, your girl, and myself. Thank you so much. We've hit 407 subscribers at the time of this video. We're building a little community here. This is exciting. I hope y'all are excited too, and hopefully I can keep these videos maybe a little higher quality. I don't know. We'll try. Let's get into this class right now. Why the new battalions are amazing. Well, they're at least neat. So first, here's the first slide here of what the battalions are and what we're trying to do here. Now, these are from the core book of New Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. Now, hopefully you've seen our first videos. I'll put a link to them. Tag, I don't know. I'll find some way to connect you to them. Maybe with a card above here at one of these corners where you can go there and see, hey, we did a whole thing on, hey, what's 3rd edition like? What's a turn look like? We did a walkthrough on Tabletop Simulator. And we're still early. The 3rd edition hasn't officially dropped yet, but the rules are out. The day one FAQs aren't here yet. But what we are going to do is dissect some of this so we can get you off on the right foot. Now, starting off with here, for me, and for a lot of what this channel's done, some of our more popular videos are list building. And now everybody and their grandmother is freaking out because all the battalions we used to build around the War Scroll battalions, if you want to play match play, they aren't legal. They aren't a thing. Death to change host. Ah, I feel so good saying that. But now we've got these new battalions, and as your boy and as your professor, we're going to walk you through a couple of the hot picks that seem to be coming out early in this pre-3.0 meta. I don't really know. Maybe it's a current 3.0. You get the idea. We're at the start here. And the first two I actually want to go over here are the Warlord and the Battle Regiment that I have up on screen. So the Warlord, seeing we have also the unit icons and all the descriptions of what they do, is a 4-drop battalion because there's only one thing that lets you currently drop all the units in a battalion, that is the Battle Regiment. We'll get to that in a second, but the Warlord is one hero that is the commander. It could be any hero. And then 2 sub-commanders that are hero models that are leaders with characteristic of less than 10 wounds. Alright, so these are your foot heroes generally. Some, maybe they're on like a small mount. Maybe like Lord Arcanum on a Griff Charger, an Achillean King. You get the idea. And the commander could be anybody. It could be an Eidolon of the Sea or Storm for that matter. You know, it could be Scarbrand. My goodness. You know, it could be any hero as a commander. Sub-commanders, we got a little bit of a limit here. And then you have to have at least one of your troops. You know, it's actually kind of straightforward with these icons this time around. I'm not going to lie, Games Workshop did a decent job with that. And the bonuses we get for this, and why you'll see people take this, is you get once per game a free command point, which was the old, hey, this is a battalion bonus, you took it and you got it. And also, you get an extra, what they're calling an enhancement. Now, this could be an extra spell from a spell lord for all your wizards, an extra prayer for your priests, or what we're more commonly seeing here is an extra artifact. And you may be saying to yourself, Rocco, why does this all sound familiar? Well, dear viewer, these are all the bonuses that you got normally for taking a battalion. Yeah. This is it. That's why everyone's liking it. That's the whole jump here. It means your 4 drops, at least. If you add extra stuff into here, it's fine. But this is just, hey, did you like all the stuff old battalions gave you? Well, I've got a deal for you. And then that, I've been seeing, has been paired up with the Battle Regiment, which is one over here, in the middle of our screen, top middle, where it is, again, one of the commanders. It could be any leader. And at least 2 of your troops. And if you're doing the math here, you're like, hey, I need 3 battle line. Those are troops. I have 4 heroes. Okay. Sounds like my whole army's going to fit in these 2 battalions. Even better, if you want to just go say, hey, my whole army's a 1-drop. You've got a spot for a monster. You got a spot for an artillery piece. You know, that could be, and those are optional. You don't need them. But this could be like, hey, I'm going to 1-drop my Ossiarch Bone Reaper army because I brought 1 of the catapults. Boom! Because that's the ability here. is to, hey, I'm going to one drop all my stuff. I'm going to be the new age change host, man. And I'm going to tell you, there are going to be armies that take this, and it's going to make sense because you don't need the extra artifact. You don't need the extra command point. You have other ways from your own book to generate extra command points. And you're like, you don't care. Like, cool, man, I'm going to decide because that's the thing that stayed here. And it wasn't necessarily clear with other people talking because we got all this information in drips and drabs and drops where if you outdrop your opponent, you will decide who goes first. And that can be very important depending on the strategy you're trying to employ with your army. If you're an Alpha Strike army and you need to go first, great. If you're a Beta Strike army and more reactionary in your playstyle, like what I do, I want to go second. Also, if you go second in this new edition, you start off the battle round with 3 command points, as opposed because it'll be you get 2, and then first turn you get 1 for your general being alive. So you're guaranteed to start off with 3 command points, and then your opponent again generates 1 for going first and 1 for their warlord being there, their general. There are going to be cases where they're going to try to steal your command points, like with a Catacross that comes to mind. But generally, I like going second. So a battle regiment and a 1-drop will make sense sometimes. But you'll see people actually combining them together. So there'll be a 5-drop. That is a take that maybe will happen in the meta. We don't know yet. But a lot of people like having the bonus of the Warlord. Now, one thing that hasn't been totally made clear at the time of this video that we're waiting for the day 1 FAQ is if you can repeat battalions. Because then if you can't, some people like throwing in that command entourage on the right over here. I'm going to put my mouse over this guy right here. So if we can't repeat, like why would we ever want to not repeat? So some people are like, hey, I can do 2 battle regiments because my army's so big. I'm a 2-drop. Or I can do a couple warlords to get extra enhancements so we start farming that out. Now, one of the things early was everyone's like, oh man, everything is a unified 1-drop. Why would they even have this as a battle regiment? It seems like a problem. Well, it turns out not all these battalions are dropped as 1-drop. It's just the battle regiment, so that has a point. And just judging from this structure we got here, the whole reason the command entourage is a thing is I don't think we can repeat battalions. So if you want to get a second enhancement and or command point to use once per game, the command entourage is there for you. Now, we do have a couple other things here. We've got the Grand Battery, which I'm actually a fan of and people are kind of sleeping on, but not every army has artillery. So I'm gonna walk you through here. You see this little icon here? That goes under the Slayers. I've played too much Halo growing up. I'm like, Slayer. So, once per battle, 1 unit from this battalion can receive an all-out attack or unleash hell command without the command being issued and without a command point being spent. Now that is huge because per the new core rules, like 1 command ability can be issued per phase and only 1 unit can receive it. You can't stack stuff as easily as 2nd edition. But if I have 2 Celestar Ballistas that get charged or are near each other, where one of them can unleash hell, and then I have a second one that can do it for free, and it doesn't count as being spent in the phase, so I can do it twice. You know what? That is potentially 8d6 shots going at somebody, as long as I can hit all right. And again, Unleash Hell is -1 when you're shooting them, so 4s to 5s. But that's minutia. But that's the strategy of it. That's what we're seeing here. That could be, the Bone Reaper Catapult again, shooting off for free. That could be so many things that we're not even aware of yet because 3rd edition is so new, but that is why I like the Grand Battery. And then we have Linebreaker, which is great for monsters, and monsters they get an all-out attack or all-out defense. And then probably the one that I'm going to be using for my Living City army is the Vanguard Battalion because it gives us an extra thing of Swift where once per battle, a unit from this battalion can receive the At the Double, which is the automatic run of 6, or the Forward to Victory command, which is the reroll charges, without it being issued and without a command point being spent. Now, there are some units in the game that don't have a unit sergeant, a unit leader, like my Fulminators that I love currently. There's a new Stormcast book probably on the way for the new edition, so we don't know if that's going to stay true yet. But in my mind, this means that my fulminators, I throw them in there, and then I could just use that as if they had a sergeant, and it doesn't count as anything against me, so they just get it for free, and I can continue with my big fulminator combo in my living city, and it's honestly better. Because before I had to move a hero, I had to spend 2 command points, one to move the fulminators after they shoot, which I've talked about in previous videos, and then another one for a hero that had shot to move up to potentially spend the 3rd command point to make sure that charge landed. Now it is a bit more guaranteed, and I don't feel bad having to make like maybe a 5 or a 7-inch charge rerolling compared to I'm like, oh cool, I need a plan for a 3-inch charge and hope. And all these are nice. Again, we're working under the assumption you can't repeat them, and that's okay. These are just the core ones in the book, and then with matched play, we actually get access to 2 more in Gur. These are from the General's Handbook. We have the Hunters of the Heartlands, which I've called Hunters of the Hinterlands because I didn't actually have a good copy of this when I was reading it. I'm half blind, so work with me here. And the Alpha Beast Pack. So the Hunters of the Hinterlands, I love this too because units from this battalion cannot be picked when your opponent carries out a monstrous rampage. And if you've seen our other videos, monstrous rampages are done by opposing monsters or your own monsters. At the end of the charge phase, you both can do it. Whoever's turn it is take precedent over the order. Each monster can do one of them. You cannot repeat your own. So you have 4 monsters. Each one can do one of the 4. That is like you roar to stop a opposing unit from being able to receive or give out command abilities, which is huge for a lot of our hammer units that we're seeing here. They're like, hey, this is my thing that's going to go out and do damage. I've got this super crazy combo. Oh, he rolled the 3 up and roared. Okay, they're scared. There goes all my damage. I needed that extra +1 to hit. Not getting it. Great. Or, I need to all-out defense for, whatever reason. Now we can't do it. This battalion lets you mess around with that new tool. Now, again, you need 2 troops. They generally are hammers anyway, so you just throw them right in there. And then we look at this Alpha Beast Pack. This is something that I'm going to see, actually, funnily enough, like Beast of Chaos players, some cities if you're bringing a couple of Hydras, or Charybdises. I love my Cal the Charybdis, as we've seen on the channel. Or even Terrorgeist and Flesh Eater Courts, where it says after armies have been set up, but before the first battle round, you can make a normal move up to d6 inches with each unit in this battalion. We have seen throughout 2nd edition, and some of 1st even, when units have this ability, it is such a huge impact on the game. It could be screens moving forward or backwards, if they, depending on your game plan, if you're going 1st or 2nd. It could be monsters moving up to, which will be in this case, monsters moving up to that extra d6 inches. We know a lot of the battle plans feel closer and on a smaller board. We generally start off 18 inches away from each other, moving up potentially 6 when a lot of monsters move 10. All of a sudden, you're feeling great about life. And, it makes that Alpha Strike, which is probably why they call it the Alpha Beast Pack, more viable. Now, you may be saying, Rocco, how do I use all this? How do I put it together in a list? Well, dear student and viewer, here's an example. So this is a list that I just recently played, where, again, until a new Stormcast book comes out, this is what I gotta work with here. I went the Celestial Vindicators. I did not do the Stormkeep. I did just normal Stormcast with the deep striking like normal. When they die, they blow up. We got that released for us. I forgot it almost all the time, and when I did do it, I was playing an opponent that had a bunch of Phoenix Guard, so the after saves worked great against it. But you know what? I get it. It's nice. It's nice, a little extra mortal wound output. But no one ever freaked out about crematorians before, so unless you're the internet. But once we started, you get the idea. So these are my Stormcast as they currently stand. I've updated the points here. This was done off of War Scroll Builder, which, again, in 3.0, when it gets released, we don't know what the list builder that Games Workshop is going to put out is going to be, whether it will be War Scroll Builder, whether it'll be just within their new app for Warhammer Plus. We don't know yet, so I'm not going to link anything until we know for sure, because I don't want to give you guys bad information. But, I've got my leaders here. I've got my general, which is the Lord Arcanum on Griff Charger. Got bumped up a little bit on points at 215. Stormcast generally got off all right. And I've got I'm not in a battalion with him, but, I gave him the spell. He's got his mount trait, command trait for the Vindicators. We're fine. I do have a Lord Relictor with the new Prayer Curse, which is on 6s to hit, you do a mortal wound in addition to whatever damage you do, because it's nice. And he comes with a prayer to heal or to do damage and give out a -1 to hit. So, I figured, hey, let's try the new stuff out. Will I go for the translocation prayer? Well, I don't know if it's going to exist, so I'm playing in a world like, hey, I'm going to pretend it's not and see what generic prayers I can take and enjoy this new prayer lore we were given. And then you see the Lord Ordinator with the GB next to it for the Grand Battery Battalion, because I took that with 2 Celestar Ballistas, as we'll see later. And I have the next 2 heroes, my Lord Castellan and the Knight and Cannon and the Warlord Battalion, with what I'm assuming to be the new costs from the leaks that we've gotten here. They've gone up pretty healthily. There was also a potential leak where maybe they're even more, but I'm working with the world of what we have readily available, because I do not get stuff from Games Workshop early. I'm too new of a YouTuber. We're growing as a community, but we're not there yet. So I don't get any review copies or anything. So I'm just working with all the stuff that's been leaked as is. And from what I saw, the Vindictors are 280 points, and I threw them into the Hunter Battalion because they're going to be my main hammer. And currently in Celestial Vindicators, I can spend a command point to give them extra attacks, and when I charge in, I reroll 1s to hit. So a lot of the abilities that normally would do that for us have gone away in the new edition. So seeing that for a sub-faction for when I want to be really aggressive and buff them, it's a unit of 10. So I can buff, because they're 2 attacks each from what we know. Leader gets an extra, so it's 21 attacks. I bump that up to 31 attacks with a command being spent onto them, where again, they're hunters now. So my super combo can't be shut off. And also, they could also all-out attack because it's a hero putting it onto them. Again, as far as we know with the rules, even if I can't all-out attack, you know what? There's 3s to hit, 3s to wound. I'm going to try to put the spell Celestial Blaze, which is +1 to wound, onto them. These are all things that now I can do extra because they are the Hunter Battalion, where, I can spend that command point in conjunction with the spell. And in conjunction with me charging, they did a lot of work. Then I've got a unit of Sequitors in the Hunter Battalion, because you're not penalized for not putting your stuff into an organization, because you'll see some things here that aren't in a battalion. And again, that's not made clear if everything has to be in a battalion yet, but the assumption generally seems to be no. And then I have a spare unit of Sequitors just hanging out. The reason they have 3 Great Maces is 2 for the regular guys, and then the leader, as currently listed, gets to take a Great Mace for free. Will that stay? No idea. And currently, I'm playing this as the Lord Arcanum makes the Sequitors battle line. We've seen conflicting leaks here, where they're unconditional or they're not. I don't know, so I'm playing it safe. I'm putting the rule to the worst possible iteration for me, so that if it stays the same, cool, I'm not nerfed. If it gets better, great, I got buffed. And this is how I'm still staying in love with my army when it's in total chaos. And then we've got a unit of 3 Evocators and Dracolions. I give the Prime the Grand Stave because I like the extra reach. The only units in my army that are affected by the new coherency are the Vindictors, but they have 2-inch reach spears, so we don't care. And everyone else is 5 or less, so these guys are doing great. They're in the Hunter Battalion as well, because I can just super buff them and be okay. We've got 2 units of Aether Wings as cheap screens and objective grabbers for me, because even at 45 points, they are fantastic. I remember when they used to be 50 and they dropped down to 40, but you know what? Points change, things happen. They still do their job really well. And then I've got a unit, this is weird, a unit of Prosecutors with Celestial Hammers, and one of them's rocking a Grand Axe. Now you may be saying to yourself, Rocco, why are you taking objectively the worst unit in Stormcast? Well, dear viewer, they're cheap at 95 points. I built them for a Path to Glory campaign to be light cavalry for me with the Celestial Hammers back before Path to Glory changed. And you know what? They did great for me then, and then horrible in 2000 point games. But I'm like, what could I use them for? Well, with everyone freaking out about Unleash Hell, these guys have a 3d6 charge. I can deep strike them in somewhere, reliably make a charge. They have a unit champion, so they could re-roll this charge to go into the unit that would be unleashing hell. So I can force my opponent to waste that on a very, again, the worst unit in my army possible. And I come out on top. And you know what happened in my game? They ate 2 Unleash Hells because it was a unit of Sisters of the Watch. The gentleman I played is named Lumi. Love him. Great guy. And all that was left was the Grand Axe guy, who gets extra attacks per any models that are within an inch of him because of all the weird coherency stuff. The sisters were bunched up. I got 8 attacks. I think I only killed 2 anyway because the unit sucks. But you know what? The point is, it actually worked in practice. And then I've got 2 units of Celestar Ballistas that, again, they're in that Grand Battery. And the double Overwatch thing happened, and it was fantastic. It was also forced because my opponent was able to tag both ballistas with the charge. But you know what? I still was able to go and put in a lot of work with it, and I'm happy. You know, and this list currently as it stands is 1980 points. I actually came out underneath. So when you're in the list building now, you pick a triumph. And one of the enhancements you could take is to get an extra triumph, which is why you'll see some people, again, trying to spam the Warlord or the Retinue or whatever to get extra stuff. I picked +1 to wound. It was great. A lot of blood was shed. I had a great time. And also in list building is a new thing where you have a grand strategy. These are listed in the core book here for like what you're trying to do. And the one that I pick for this is actually going to be the Hold the Line, have one of your battle line units survive the battle. And the reason I'm doing that is like there's one for like have a wizard survive. I'm like, well, or have your general survive. I'm like, well, that's still the same dude we're talking about who's a wizard in my general, and he's a support hero, the Lord Arcanum. If he's gonna die, he's just gonna die. There's Julio Knox, great guy, lovely Lord Arcanum for me. He just dies like a mother, and we just can't risk it. So having a really survivable battle line with the Sequitors possibly rolling their saves, or the Vindictors that start on a 3-up that I can make a 2-up for an all-out defense, because hey, they're the 100 Battalion, I can just do it. Hold the line's the way we go here. And with that, folks, I want to thank you for tuning into class. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Thank you again so much. Over 400 subscribers. Rocco, your girl, and I are so happy. And we're just here to build this community up and do it right by y'all. All right? So thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. And as I love to say at the end of all of our videos, class dismissed.